And uh, please share whatever you'd like to share with us about your thoughts on the bill or about the existing program. We'd love to hear it. So Elise, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, committee members. Thank you for inviting me to testify today. And thank you for supporting the Farm to School and Early Childhood movement in Vermont. And just to clarify, are we going ahead with the testimonies now or just going around to do introductions?
Yeah, you can jump right in.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Thank you. So for the record, my name is Elise Parambo. I am a resident of Richford, Vermont, and I am the Farm to School Program Manager at Green Mountain Farm to School, which is based out of Newport and serves the Northeast Kingdom region of the Vermont state. I am also here today representing the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Network. We're a statewide network providing leadership, coordination, and advocacy to advance new and existing farm to school efforts in Vermont. We're a group of farm to school advocates, practitioners, and educators across the state. I am here today to learn more about the proposed changes to the proposed bill, which I believe is H550, or do you call it 505? I'm not sure how you'd like to properly.
550.
Okay. And answer any questions that I can. I also want to let committee members know that on February 8th, it is Farm to School Awareness Day in legislature, and we look forward to having school staff, farmers, and students testify in the committee on the impacts of your investment in farm to school at this time. As part of the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Network, we do not have a position on the specific language proposed. Today, we're here to learn more and are encouraged by the efforts to expand agricultural education across the state. To clarify, when I'm referring to that, I mean Farm to School as an overreaching food, farm, and nutrition education program that connects youth, young people to their local foods and where they came from. Currently, the Farm to School Capacity Grant has been an opportunity for early childhood centers, schools, and school districts to create a lasting farm to school program that addresses the 3 C's, which are community, classroom, and cafeteria. In my experience working with a school that has received this grant, it created resilience of the farm to school program in the school community because of the structured support of the technical assistance that's offered through the grant to the school. The grant also supports a coach that is chosen from within the Farm to School network, the Vermont Farm to School and Early Childhood Network. There have been clear outcomes over the years that this grant has supported early childhood centers, schools, and school districts to build an embedded farm to school program. I've also been a solo volunteer as a parent and a part-time after-school teacher in the past, working at Richford Elementary, trying to bring a farm to school program off the ground and trying to build up support within the school. It was a difficult task as a solo person trying to build up interest within the school, but I got to witness a huge shift and the impact when the school applied for the Shelburne Farms Institute, which required them to put a team together. Once the team was together, the school was able to develop and grow the 3 C's. And through the work at the Institute and the work of this group, they were able to then go on and apply for capacity grant. I found through life and work changes, I had to step away from the committee. And here it is 4 years later, and I see signs of the program thriving today when I enter my local grocery store and I see the Harvest of the Month artwork posted by the students. It is often one person. It could be an administrator, a parent, a teacher, or a youth that will lead the application for capacity grant. The grant is designed through coaching program and technical assistance to support a team that works to carry forward a farm to school program, work that can last beyond one person. The capacity grant currently offers opportunities for grantees to decide how to use their funding. This has given early childhood centers, schools, and school districts the opportunity to develop a farm to school program that fits the vision, needs, and interest of the community. The structure has been successful for the grantees, allowing them to choose to purchase supplies such as cooking equipment, garden supplies, create a garden space, or other farm to school related costs that fit the strategies that they have individually developed to implement their farm to school program for their school or early childhood center. Another role I fit that seems related to today's committee meeting is being a small farm owner. From personal experience and from what I have seen of many of the farms that the schools visit across the Northeast Kingdom, the farmers give their time. As a farmer myself, I understand the time it takes to prepare the farm to have a school visit, the time it takes to put together a nice program for the students. I also know that many of the schools have shared they don't have much funding for busing. If there's an opportunity to find additional funding to support farmers hosting field trips and busing for schools, it would give greater opportunities for students to connect within their agricultural community. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate the committee taking time to discuss how to further support farm-to-school programs for educators, early childhood centers, schools, and school districts across the state. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. See if there's any questions from the committee. And those committee members who are online, I'll try to keep an eye on the screen too. If you don't recognize you and you wanted to speak, just speak up. Representative Cole.
I think one of the goals of the local foods grant is to support areas that aren't, getting enough funding, infrastructure funding. And it's my understanding that in public schools, commonly, it is more likely that a program has like a family consumer science program, which involves cooking, than an agriculture program, for example. And so us being the Committee on Agriculture and Food Lindsay, of course, too, I'm just, wanting to make sure we cater our efforts to the missing gap. And so by including like cooking equipment in here, I just want to be careful that we're not being like redundant with, programs that exist with like family consumer science programs, while recognizing that most schools do not have the agricultural program piece and like where these foods are actually grown, cultivated, et cetera. So in terms of language, I think that's kind of what, though I want to support all education, I think our goal here is to fill that missing gap. So yeah, any thoughts on just how we can be careful to, not suppress creativity, but also to really bolster up the education that we're missing out on, which is relating to more specifically to farms and agriculture, it seems.
Just want to touch on again, we are not quite ready to weigh in on the actual language, just kind of here learning, and also want to encourage reaching out to Gina Clitheroe at the Vermont agency to kind of clarify some of the grants that are already in existence and some of the opportunities that are available for schools for equipment and education.
Representative Lipsky.
Yeah, thank you, Elise. Just in case you're not aware, and one of the members who brought this bill forward last session had to do specifically with a farm to school educational component. We had testimony from the Agency of Ed and others, but I want to tell you that your testimony about your particular efforts and leadership and collaborating with the program down at Shelburne Farms is helpful. And it would be likely that we would reach out to you again for some details of your path to some success in that regard in the future.
I would be happy for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say that we're, as Representative Lipsky just said, trying a different approach than we tried last year, which was to see whether there was a way that we could add statewide an agriculture component to the school curriculum, and that's a difficult avenue, as it turns out. So I think the genesis of this bill was then saying what might be another approach to doing that. And I think we heard good feedback from, actually from the program, that there might be another way to do it. So essentially what the bill is doing here is saying, let's broaden the opportunities a little bit, so it's not just food, but also includes, agriculture or farming. And I think that maybe Representative Coles, I don't want to misquote you, but possibly there's not a concern, but noting that there already are maybe equipment in schools for cooking, and maybe we don't need to add another opportunity for funding cooking programs through this bill anyway. Yeah, make sure that agriculture is supported. That's the intent. Furthering agricultural education for opportunities. Well, I don't know whether you have any other thoughts, Elise, but we can circle back if you want to stay and hear what others have to say.
I just wanted to comment to what you were saying with expanding curriculum and education. I did have a really nice conversation this fall with Catherine Rossman over at the Department of Education, and she was looking deeper into that exact question of possibly integrating farm to school more into the school curriculum. So I would encourage, if there was more curiosity and inquiry, of reaching out to her directly.
Good. Thank you. Okay, well, why don't we turn to Kayla?
Good afternoon, committee members. Thank you so much for inviting me to testify and your support for Farm to School and Early Childhood in Vermont. So for the record, my name is Kayla Strom. I'm a resident of Richmond, Vermont, and I am the Farm to School coordinator at the Northeast Organic Farming Association of Vermont, known as NOFA. I'm here representing the Farm to School and Early Childhood Network. As Elise mentioned, we are a statewide network providing leadership, coordination, and advocacy for farm to school efforts in Vermont. So I'm also here today to learn about the proposed changes to H550 and answer any questions that I can. And I also want to remind you all that February 8th is Farm to School Awareness Day in the legislature, and we really look forward to having school staff, farmers, school nutrition professionals, and students testify in committee on the impact of your investments at that time. So our collective vision as a network is for every Vermont child and educational community to be engaged in our local food and farm culture that nourishes children's bodies and minds, cultivates viable farms, and builds vibrant communities. I listened to the committee walkthrough on the proposed changes to H550 and wanted to provide the committee with a landscape of the farm to school work that exists within the state at this time. So the network at this time does not have any position around proposed language changes to H550, but we are here to learn more and support and appreciate your efforts to expand agricultural education throughout the state. So Farm to School is based on connecting classrooms, cafeterias, and communities, including farms, in order to build a culture that supports local agriculture. We found that more successful programs are not add-ons to school policies or curricula, but are integrated throughout school priorities and culture. This requires collaboration amongst administrators, school nutrition professionals, students, families, and educators. By connecting food systems education with local food and cafeterias and community-based partners in learning, we are integrating farm to school with staying power, and that lasts beyond any one single grant or single champion. As determined by our strategic plan, the network operates 6 action teams to work towards the collective network goal. I heard these come up in previous meetings referred to as our monthly meetings, so I just wanted to take a moment to share what these monthly meetings are. So these 6 action teams represent different leverage points that have the potential to radically change farm to school and early childhood to help us achieve our goals. So these 6 levers are ease of use, which focuses on making farm to school more accessible, research and evaluation, which allows us to track our progress towards our goal and the impact of these programs, demonstrating educational value of farm to school, which is to convince educational leadership to invest in these programs that we see work. Local purchasing, which is to increase the amount of local food served in schools and early childhood programs. Policy and demand, to ensure that our communities invest in these changes. And a farm to early childhood action team to create deeper connections and understandings of the early childhood landscape with an eye towards developing cross-network advocacy and action that more naturally includes early childhood in the picture. So each month, these teams meet to collaborate on various projects and strategies of change. It's often a place where network partners and engaged members are able to share ideas and move forward on project work that's specific to their area of expertise. We host another monthly meeting with all the chairs of these action teams, which we call the Common Circle, as a way to ensure collaboration and coordination across teams. I do want to mention that I lead the local purchasing action team and work more closely with school nutrition professionals and farmers than I do with educators. So there are other network partners that can speak better to the needs of teachers in the state than myself. But I do work with school teams as a coach through the Agency of Agriculture's Farm to School and Early Childhood Capacity Building Grant. And I help design and run various farm to school professional learning opportunities in Vermont. I also provide technical assistance around local purchasing to all grantees through the Farm to School Grants program. But my colleagues at Shelburne Farms, on the other hand, are the technical assistant providers for farm to school curriculum and education for sustainability. And they would be able to better answer any questions around how to best increase support for educators accessing farm to school curriculum. So in reviewing the changes to H550, I see an addition for teachers' ability to apply for the Farm to School Grants program. And while teachers are not currently solely eligible entities to apply for the grant, they are very much involved and are often the lead applicant on a grant. Because we use this 3 C's models of change, grantees have representatives from school nutrition, from the classroom, community, as well as administration on their grant applications. This model allows for the creation of farm to school teams within a school early childhood program where the values, goals, and activities represented are representative of the larger community rather than just one person. And one of the greatest challenges we've seen in recent years is staff turnover. And we believe that this 3 C's model of change supports the longevity of farm to school programming that can so often die when one ambitious leader leaves from their position in a school. I'm currently coaching a team at Spalding Education Alternatives in Barrie, and their farm to school program has developed so much since organizing a team. Student specialist Alyssa Pratt, who we've actually invited to come testify on Farm to School Awareness Day on February 8th, is an incredibly passionate educator and leader in their program, but has shared that it wasn't until their school formed a farm to school team that their program really took off. Since forming a team, that school has gone on farm field trips, they've done cooking lessons in the classroom, they've partnered with the cafeteria on menus, and they even work with their woodshop teacher design and build garden infrastructure, and are now even partnering with a local chef at Pearl Street Pizza, who has come to the school to teach students how to make fresh mozzarella. So Spalding Education Alternatives is a really great example of a passionate educator rallying behind a team to integrate farm to school and agricultural education across the school community. I also heard comments about the current program not including supplies for agricultural education. And although that's not specifically called out in legislative language, equipment for classroom cooking, curriculum supplies and development, and funds to pay farmers for field trip are allowable costs of the program and are very much encouraged. The language in the current bill allows for flexibility to meet these parameters. So these farm to school grantees not only are awarded funds that they can spend on agricultural education, but they also have access to technical assistance from 4 statewide providers. NOFA Vermont, which I coordinate, provides technical assistance on local procurement. Hunger Free Vermont provides support for the meal program. The Vermont Garden Network around school gardens, and Shelburne Farms on integrating farm to school curriculum. And I've mentioned the state's farm to school grant program a couple times now, and I just wanted to reiterate our gratitude to the legislator for fully funding the grants program. Through this existing program, we're providing farm to school curriculum integration workshops for teachers each year, and across the state. In addition, the Vermont Garden Network provides workshops on integrating classrooms and school gardens. And the grant program is also supporting Vermont's Harvest of the Month program, which provides resources for classroom activities and is a great way for schools to get started with farm to school. Through a grant through the Agency of Education, the Vermont Farm to School Network, we're offering additional curriculum integration workshops in 6 regions around the state this year. And on our website, we provide access to curricular resources and activities and guides, as Representative Cole noted on Wednesday. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you all today, and thank you for your commitment to farm to school and making it accessible to teachers and providers across the state. As a reminder, February 8th is Farm to School Awareness Day in the legislature, and we look forward to having school staff, farmers, school nutrition professionals, and students testify in the committee then. We value your interest in ensuring these investments have a long-lasting impact. And if there are any follow-up questions or further information needed, please just let me know. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kayla. Let's see, Representative O'Brien.
Kayla, in the, I guess it's farm to school granting program, in the actual statute language, it says a school or a consortium of schools or probably an SU can apply for a farm to school grant. So how does that work at the school level, since you've probably seen this? Does a team have to go through a principal or the SU, or, you know, is it a consensus that with a team leader that actually gets the grant on the move?
Yeah, so what I've seen is that schools have to have administrative support to submit an application because the school is often the fiscal sponsor receiving the grant award, which is why we encourage it to be across the team and with school support, so that I'm not really sure how it would work if it was just a teacher solely applying, how that fiscal piece would work.
Or a parent, or a farmer, parent, any of those
Well,
combinations, right?
Yeah, we've seen, so the application requests like different representatives of those groups I've mentioned to be identified on the application. And oftentimes it is, you know, not necessarily the person pressing submit that is kind of taking reins on the application and gathering input from the other stakeholders.
But every grant needs a fiscal agent essentially to accept.
Yeah, and the Agency of Agriculture would be able to best speak to that, but to my knowledge, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
You all set, John?
Yeah.
Good. Other questions? Representative Holt.
So just to clarify, it sounds like there may be no need to expand the language because it sounds like there actually is a pretty wide array of programs and offerings that qualify for these funds.
To my knowledge, yes. Those are all allowable costs. I think that when I was reviewing the committee meetings earlier this week, talking about H550, it sounded like maybe there was just needing to be clarification that those were actually allowable costs. That's, you can use these grant funds to support curriculum and support agricultural education in terms of partnering with farms and hosting school field trips and things like that.
Thank you. And just to add on there, so it sounded like cost to cover transportation were a need. And did you say that could qualify?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive that could qualify. I would check with the Agency of Agriculture, but to my knowledge, yes. I think what Elise was mentioning was that if there were additional funding resources to provide towards this grant program, often when I'm working with farmers, I know that they, you know, they're looking for more funds to host farm field trips, and that's something that would be a really nice thing to offer solely. But right now it is available through the grants program, but you have to be working on a team that has received a capacity building grant.
And another question is, what have you noticed as some of the greatest barriers to schools making use of this program?
usually just capacity. I found that there are teams that, want to apply for this, but are, just have a hard time getting together regularly to meet and decide of what their team wants to do. So I would say capacity just in the school systems right now is probably the biggest barrier to engaging in farm to school.
Just piggybacking on this next question. These grants are all annual, right? So if you want, a curriculum that you want to keep going or field trips that you want sort of become an annual thing, you have to keep reapplying every year.
Yeah, so they are annual grants. There are two different similar grant cycles. So the one that we're talking about right now is through the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, that capacity building grant. That is a 1-year grant cycle. But we also have the Northeast Farm to School Institute, which Vermont teams are, can apply to and go to that as well, which is another year-long professional learning with funds, with access to technical assistance and workshops. So there are two opportunities kind of, and we recommend that folks can go through one and then the other. But yeah, it is a 1-year program, each of those.
You, in your experience anyway, Kayla, do you get schools or districts that regularly reapply?
There are definitely folks that reapply. I think one of the things that we work on with school teams is for them to create an action plan. And that action plan we look at the beginning of the year and identify goals and activities that the team wants to do. And then again at the end of the year, well, we actually look at it throughout the whole year, but at the end of the year, we start working with teams on making a year 2 plan. So we hope that, by going through this program, they're really integrating farm to school and developing systems and relationships as a team that they can carry on without a grant. And then they're welcome to apply again at a later point. But we do hope that we're setting them up for success of kind of running with their own programs at a certain point.
Yeah, good. Oh, Representative Paul.
One question I have is, given that capacity is one of the major barriers to participating in this program, I'm wondering if students, particularly high school age students, are involved in the process of coming up with projects and following through, because I know there's a lot of passion there, and just really, making the most of it. I wonder if we do outreach to students to say, you could be a leader in developing this kind of program.
Yeah, students are definitely recommended, team members for a farm to school team. Actually, I had a meeting on Wednesday evening with this year's Institute grantees, and Montpelier was talking about, they had actually 2 of their student team members who were in high school come to the Institute at Shelburne Farms for one of the days of professional development. And just, they have really taken off with leading their team's programs. So they're a really cool example of like a student-led farm to school team that's also working with the administrators and the teachers and the school nutrition professionals as well. Just equal teammates there.
Thank you.
Great. John.
Kayla, have you seen, there's no match required for these grants, but on the school level and the school team level, are you seeing the grants sort of used to leverage more money so that, there's either student or parent or local not-for-profit fundraising that goes on to sort of match the farm to school grant to really get, a lot bigger bang for their buck?
Yeah, so I've seen that the folks use funding for the grant for, equipment that might not be something that is like some infrastructural equipment that would be good, like one cost time funding, but also like developing programs, like harvest nights and different fundraisers throughout the year, like community dinners to support funding to continue their farm to school programming throughout time. There are also other schools that have kind of invested in, a position at the school, like a farm to school coordinator or a curriculum, a district-wide curriculum support that can help teachers and other administrators just integrate farm to school throughout the year.
Are there also sort of a team of teams that you see at an SU level where, 6 schools get together and say, we could share potential farm to school person.
Yeah. That's definitely a model that exists. I'm trying to think of an example. I think that Lamoille County has a district-wide farm to school coordinator that kind of works with each school in the district and unites them. And there are other examples as well. I think Liz might be, who's on this call, actually could better speak to that. She leads a monthly meeting of farm to school coordinators in the state, which is a place where folks who are in that position can kind of connect with each other, bounce ideas off each other, and see how things are going.
And I would add, in terms of team leadership on that level, there's a specific project through the educational value team of the Farm to School and Early Childhood Network that held last year the first annual, hopefully, Feast Summit, which is a youth-led farm to school summit. So the kids are running the conference with a lot of support from farm to school practitioners, but not just leading the workshops and being the MC on the day of, but really doing the organizing, the promotion. So that's a newer effort that really speaks to that.
Go first.
Yes, I was just going to say, maybe this would be Liz, stay on, because it might be a good segue into having you share with what you'd like to share. But before we say goodbye to Kayla, Representative Cole, I think you had another question.
Yeah, it's such an exciting initiative with this summit and the kids taking the lead on that. And I could see that as a wonderful opportunity for the committee here, maybe in the future, for a future summit, for us to hear from them directly, maybe attend as, listeners. So that would be really cool.
Of course.
Sorry, this is Elise just jumping in to share quick. We do have a beautiful video clip that has been curated from Shelburne Farms that would be more than happy to send over and share with the committee from the first Feast Summit last June.
Good, thank you. All right, Kayla, if you can stay, please do. And then we may have other questions later, but Liz, if you could introduce yourself, and then we'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Representative. I was just looking up that clip, so let me shift gears. My name, for the record, is Liz Kenton. I'm a resident of Brattleboro. I work for the University of Vermont Extension Service for 4-H as the Youth Agriculture Project Coordinator. I've been actively involved with farm to school work since about 2012. At that time, my work for UVM Extension was running a farm-based job training program for at-risk youth. And that has since shifted to being a statewide specialist for agriculture and STEM workforce development with 4-H. I was a founding member of Food Connects, which is a regional education provider, and Food Hub, a strong member of the Farm to School and Early Childhood Network. I've been a presenter at the Northeast Farm to School Institute. I facilitated an agency of education funded community of practice on food system curriculum, and was a coach for an institute-funded farm-to-school team in Bennington. And I've also reviewed some of these Agency of Agriculture grant applications, though not for a few years now. I've been the most active in farm-to-school network since about 2016 as part of the Ease of Use team, which focuses on direct support for practitioners in the field. And each of the regional organizations is working with farm-to-school and early childhood coordinators all the time, back and forth. There are coaches through the Institute. And this is more of peer support for regional practitioners and support providers, and all are welcome, though. We announced that through the listserv, which has a couple of hundred subscribers. That's a service supported by UVM. Announce it, anyone is welcome. We actually have the statewide farm to school coordinator from Iowa, it might be Idaho, apologies if I got that wrong, has been joining those calls to learn from what's going on in Vermont. We're seen as a national leader in farm to school work. The Ease of Use team has also offered regional gatherings in October, which is Farm to School Month. And so all of this is about troubleshooting, resource sharing, and kind of peer-led professional development at all levels for Farm to School. Workforce development is a main focus of my work with Extension 4-H. As it relates to food systems and Farm to School, this includes, among other things, teaching the National Youth Tractor Safety Certification, hence my profile picture, with technical education centers and with farm families. and a career exploration and financial literacy program in which students, high school age and tech center, explore their own personal values and the diversity of career opportunities through the food system. And that's resulted in a couple of kids getting hired after graduation through contacts they made with that program. I'll end by saying I echo Elise and Kayla's comments that I don't believe the network holds a strong opinion at this time on the specific language of the grant, but is encouraged by the ongoing past and present support of the legislature for this work that connects all Vermonters through the food system, from the youngest students in early childhood through working farmers. Questions that you may have?
Okay, thank you, Liz. Can you, I mean, I think just interesting, even if it's just anecdotally, to hear firsthand from any of you. So Liz, if you've got, if you can you describe a particular, specific grant award and just tell us what impact it might have had?
I'd like to hand that one to Kayla or Elise. I've only really been a reviewer and it's been a little while.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
In your role, you're not seeing them yet directly. Okay. We'll come back to you, Liz, then, and maybe quiz you about your reviewer responsibilities, what that looks like.
I'm happy to answer that one. So I have coached now for 3 years through the capacity building grant and also the Institute. This current year's cohort, I'm coaching the One Arts in Burlington and Colchester. This is an early childhood program. And so what I've seen them do with their funds through this grant program is really cool. This summer, they partnered with a local dairy farm, and this woman, Kathy, has been on the Farm to School team and worked with both locations on coming and doing different cheese making classes, different yogurt making classes, and also kind of started a dairy like CSA subscription at their school for the families. So that was using grant funds to basically pay for food for family nutrition and access to nutrition. So I thought that was a really cool program that happened this summer. I don't know, there's countless examples, but I think these funds are really getting put to good use. They're, providing hands-on education activities, they're providing agricultural connections, and oftentimes food access support. So.
Is that the kind of program that can survive going forward once the grant has been spent? We were talking earlier about that being sort of an ideal anyway, or an aspiration.
Yeah, so that program, the specific like milk program that this team started, they actually had like basically the full cost of the milk being covered by some of the grant funds at first, and then they kind of, did a little bit less each time, and so that there were families that were interested in like kind of just getting connected to a local farm that stayed interested and continue to purchase milk from them. But no, that's not sustainably funding families to have access to this milk throughout over a long period of time, but it is building that connection to a local producer.
Yeah, great, thank you. Representative Lipsky.
Yeah, Liz, my question to you, thank you for your extensive work across the board. So this is a very specific comment you made that struck a chord with me. We've had testimony regarding, Northern Vermont University, Randolph Campus Tech, with regard to training. And we've also had testimony in our forestry responsibility for training for workforce, learning to operate equipment. And you mentioned a tractor operator, other safe certification program that you were active in. I'd like to hear a little more about who participated in that, how that really worked.
So the specific program is the National Safe Tractor and Machinery Operation Program under U.S. Department of Labor Hazardous Occupations Act. I'm trying to keep this short. A lot of what I do with this program is translate the verbiage and the training program for teachers who don't have the time to kind of wade through it. Agriculture is more hazardous than other areas of work. At the same time, it's a unique work situation where the family home is often the workplace. The workplace is where you live, and kids are involved. The certification was an attempt to standardize the training that young people receive, to acknowledge that young people are going to be involved in the work because the work needs to get done. And it is an important, viewed as an important place for skill building and relationship building within the family. They're already doing the work. So most hazardous occupations, you have to be 18. In agriculture, you have to be 16 to do most anything. There's certain tasks that you cannot do as a young person. Tractor specifically, this training provides for those under 16 who are 14 or 15 to go through 24 hours of study and hands-on practice, a written test and a driving test to become certified specifically to work off the family farm for pay, operating certain kinds of equipment. It's a pretty narrow window of the audience. So I've delivered that. I used to teach it at Green Mountain College when they were around, to the folks who were just starting out in farming. My main audience now is tech center students looking for that certification, and more recently going directly out to farms and just doing farm visits with the families, bring the neighbors over. These are the kids who are doing the work, 14, 15, 16 years old, and they want to get standardized education in safety and operation. So as well as whatever they're learning from their family, from their neighbors, from getting the work done, kind of the principles of safety, the physics and psychology of what to think about and what to look out for. And that has resulted in kids being hired, young people being hired directly after they receive the certification. I will say that's recently been downgraded in something like 20 states. It's above my level, but I heard from the Tech Center partners that it's no longer as desired as, say, game of logging or a welding certification. It's on the level of, first aid and more basic certification. So it no longer fulfills the graduation requirements for tech centers. There's still a strong interest in it, but administratively, it's less desirable.
Thank you.
Liz, while we have you, is there anything that you would like to share that you think might be interesting to us, just as someone who reviews the applications?
Sure. And I haven't done that in a few years. I did do it for 3-4 years, and that was over 5 years ago. So I haven't been directly involved in the applications recently. I only hear about it through conversations at Farm to School and Early Childhood Network gatherings and in those meetings. Few different things I would echo: transportation as a challenge that comes up, in all youth programs and Farm to School work in particular. That always comes up. That formal recognition for school credits, I think, helps teachers do what they want to do anyway, connect kids with hands-on education. And one specific note from a project that I supported, this was the Agency of Education funded Community of Practice for Food Systems Educators. The goal from the agency was to create a library of food systems education. And I would say the gathering of food systems educators from across middle school, high school, tech centers who self-identified and applied to the group to teach food systems education in all different realms was great. There was a lot of enthusiasm. They were glad to get together, really grateful for the opportunity to have some dedicated time to work on curriculum and work with their expert peers on this. The creating a library was not as highly valued of an outcome. There are tons of curricula out there for Farm to School and food systems education. And no curriculum is ever really, truly ready to use. So creating that library was less valued than the opportunity to have the time. Elisa and Kayla both spoke to the capacity of teachers to talk with each other and improve what they already had, or fine tune, or hear about a new resource. And we find a lot of that on the monthly open call as well. We had somebody say, this is the most helpful hour I've had all year, which was encouraging for us, of just, go around, introduce yourself and what you're doing. What is something that's very present in your farm to school work right now, whether it's going great or going not so great. And we troubleshoot, we share resources, and some of that then goes out to the whole listserv. So just supporting people in the work they're already doing has been my main takeaway with the farm to school piece. And yeah, I'm really grateful this exists. There's the awareness that the food system is not just farmers, that farmers are key, the working landscape is key, and there are also truck drivers and accountants and electricians and advertising folks, and all of that can relate to the food system as kind of a cohesive core to it. And I would be happy to follow up with the Feast Summit Youth, where Elise is also on that team. So we'll pass that along that there's interest to hear more about that event.
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, please send us that, the video at least, and anything else you might have.
Yeah. Would it work to put that in the chat for you?
Probably better to email it to,
Okay.
Sidonia.
Will do. Thank you.
I don't see any other questions, so thank you to all three of you for sharing this information today, and we'll look forward to hearing from you on that particular program, and then seeing you on February 8th when those of you who will be here then. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Nice.